looks good.
Beautiful. Okay, cool.
Very nice.
Sweet. All right. Ready to get kicked off? Cool. All right. Welcome everyone to season 3, episode 9, proactive versus reactive. And I think Liam gave the suggestions for this one, so this is after some comments in the Discord. So want to introduce a new section called Community Members of the Week, and basically just like calling out community members who provide a differentiated view or something insightful. So this week it goes to Jumaz for taking the time to explain his thoughts on the state of all things ARCx and offering some critical feedback, and then Lasiyo for offering some product suggestions about how we could drive more passport numbers. So it doesn't really matter if we implement it or anything happens, but we just love to hear and get ideas because we never know if something will happen with this all. So yeah, thank you to you all whenever you see this recording. In terms of an overview for this week or the last few weeks. So last week was actually a pretty big week. We managed to get the Visor pool up and running, which was great because one of the challenges last week was liquidity. So that's all under control. We managed to ship the new user interface and the brand. So when you go to app.arcx.money, that looks really slick now. We got the foundations for cross-chain done, which is really exciting because it means supporting new chains is not a Herculean task, but actually something that we can do quite easily. And then we managed to get the planning for custom scores done. So custom scores, for reference, is basically the data team. So Kayla can basically create a score that ranks users on any arbitrary thing that we want to create, and eventually anyone can plug in their own scores, but do these custom scores and they get pushed straight into the interface, and you can actually leverage them on chain as well, which is like a very underutilized part about what we're doing. So that's coming along really nicely. Now I guess this week I was going to say had majority of the work with the custom scores done, not credit scores. So basically custom scores, we from a development and product perspective, we are looking to get in pretty good shape. And then of course, when I write that state of ARCx blog post, it kind of explains where we're at with a bunch of things. And of course, just figuring out like how we can better communicate the progress that we're doing on the product front with everyone in the community. That's something that probably me and Hugh will be thinking about more closely. And shout outs the entire team for the really good execution of the new app and the brand release. So having an app that's well tested, released to specification, it sounds minor, but it's major in the context of software development. And Hugh for getting up to speed, improving a bunch of things already. So thank you there, and Stuart for returning back and working with the other ML engineers. So I think in 2 weeks we'll have Diego, the final piece, come together, and then the data team are like Avengers. They can do anything they want. We've got data specialists, ML specialists, crypto specialists. It's a really stacked team. So anyway, that's all on my end. I will pass it over to Kyle on the engineering side.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. So a lot happened last week, like you said. We had a really smooth week considering everything that we had to do. So we deployed the new UI. That was all good. We also, while we deployed the new UI, we didn't deploy to a new chain, but we deployed the compatibility to go cross chain. So now it's very smooth and easy for us to deploy to new chains. Actually have some internal stuff going around on testing on some test nets on different networks as well to test this all out. So that's really cool and exciting. For this week, so like Herman said, we did the planning of custom scores last week. This week is just putting all the pieces together of everyone's world, our world, the business world, the data world, making sure that they all fit. We also have a new screen coming. It's called your reputation profile. So now that we have scores, we have to bundle all your scores together. So that's going to be a new screen that's coming as well. The developer docs. So we're gonna, inject a lot more effort into some documentation. So people can integrate the Passport.js components, people can hit our endpoints and have documentation there. So that's all coming this week as well. We're also adding some more infrastructure stability. So now that we're cross-chain, there's a lot more things to monitor. There's a lot more things to make sure, that we have enough gas on every chain and all this kind of stuff. So we're also beefing that up as well. Shout out to Stuart, who's coming back. Glad to have him back. I actually talked to Stuart. I knew him before he left, so I'm glad to see him come back. And also I updated this while Walker wasn't there, but thanks to Hugh for the great blog post last week. It was cool. And then also, tweaking it really quickly when I asked you for some like a new screenshot, and you were like right on it. So that was awesome. Thanks. So challenges that we're working through. So communication between internal teams. This is one thing that we talked about already, where we want to the data world wants to know a little bit what's going on in the web world, and the web world wants to know a little bit more what's going on in the data world. So we're working on processes there to make sure that we are all on the same page, but we don't know in details what we're doing. So it's just making that a little more clear, and then clear and concise documentation for partners that ties in with the developer docs, right? We want to empower Liam as much as possible, so that when Liam gets asked all these techie nerdy big brain questions, he can just say, look at the docs, and then they go perfect, and then everyone's off to the races. So yeah, that's everything for engineering for this week.
Sweet, cool. Over to you, Cal.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago in these community calls, but now the engineers are all spinning up, all the ML engineers. We're just pumping work out. I'm getting to the point where I'm having to try and figure out how to write less, which is a nice feeling. Last week, so we actually had an internal release of the ARCx score, so that's been created internally, so just being tested internally. So there was improvements, bug fixes, deep dive analyses, all the numbers lining up. So actually shout that out on the right-hand side. So Liam and Kerman, thank you. You've been helping analyze these things, check the outputs and going, why is this number when this didn't happen? So they've been really, really handy with that. But that's in a really good state, which is nice. This slide isn't quite updated with my side. I don't know if you want to kind of maybe stop presenting and start presenting again, Kerman, see if it pops up. There's a couple of things I added in after the fact. Maybe I'm... go just reshare. There it is. It's back again.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Sorry, there's just some other stuff I added in last minute. Snapshot data. So this was something that was kind of emerged out of a lot of discussions that Liam had with like for integrations and then internally and things of going, we want information on who's voting, when are they voting, what are they voting about. So we pulled that all in, and we can do that for any project. So all that pipeline is established. We actually had a POC of the risk modeling. So this is an item I've been talking about on a kind of weekly basis. But we've had one of our ML engineers, Sonia, dedicated to this. And she's actually POC'd this and started to actually model out the risk in the lending and borrowing. So this is really, really important that on face value, you go, oh, it's easy, just release this product. Who cares? But you forget we're dealing with many, many ETH, millions of dollars, that we need to be very careful about it. So that's been POC'd, so we're doing some more work on that. And then GC, our other ML engineer, has been doing some monitoring on MLOps stuff, which is cool. For this week, we want to connect that ARCx score up into the Merkle Root publishing system. We want to do some experimentation of those protocol risk parameters to understand what we should really be setting when we go live with the lending platform, and then just continue risk modeling, monitoring. Data's always a little bit abstract. Shout outs, Sydney ARCx guys. We had a meet space catch up. That was awesome. It's really cool. We've Sydney for the non-Australians in the call or on YouTube in the future. Sydney has been in a lockdown for about 3 months, so we all caught up after that opened up, which is really nice. Already shout out Liam and Kerman. GC for that ribbon finance analysis, which I'll talk about in the next couple of slides. Challenges. The data and ML guys are spread out all across the world. We very literally have 4 time zones. It's like -10, +1, +8, and +11 or something. So we have literally somewhere everywhere on the globe. So that's a real big challenge for us, is figuring that out and trying to figure out how to communicate asynchronously better. External comms, this is something that I've been working on and I want to continue working on. How to engage with the community, because a lot of our work is so abstract and so behind the scenes that I want to try and get better at socializing and then to Kyle's point, internal comms. It's data. The data side of thing is so complicated, and the crypto side of thing is so complicated, but we're not communicating as well as like we all would like. We're not going as deep as we want. We're working on how does everyone get a picture of the puzzle together? Anyway, I'm talking a lot. Kermit, can you show the next couple slides?
Sure.
So these are just a couple of snapshots out of the ribbon finance that GC was performing. So we have a blog post up. I encourage you to go read it. But it was really just showing that the number off the top of my head was like potentially 2 to 8 million that could be saved from a Sybil attack. So really, really interesting. GC did a really good analysis of these. I recommend you read the blog post. There's just a couple slides. So just go to the next slide, Kermit, just to show that. We kind of talk about this a little bit more in that blog post. But yeah, super, super cool. And this is kind of the good thing about having all these ML engineers up to speed is that we're able to do these analyses and really start to think about stuff a bit more. That's it. I think it's Liam next.
Cool.
Hello, hello, hello. So, as an update for business development, so last week I met with 6 new partners, which was great. And I moved 1 new score into development, and that was a governance score, looking at snapshot voting. Yeah, so I think just generally some of the insights from last week was that governance participation is an interesting area for custom scores. And I think that it's got a lot of broad appeal. So I think that opens up a whole bunch of new leads to demonstrate the value of the passport to and potentially provide some initial utility to passport holders. I also spent a lot of time just reworking the BD process essentially. So I'm a lot more clinical with it now. It's a lot more connected into what Kale is doing. I've kind of got a pipeline where I can do an initial consult with a DAO and essentially convert it into something that Kale can upload into our system. And then once the UI elements are done, then we can essentially, have a score that we can push out. So this week, that I'm sort of starting to on Mondays. It's kind of my like prep day for the week, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm out hunting and looking for opportunities. So on the Monday, it's really just formalizing like an outbound plan. So essentially figuring out, okay, what are the sorts of projects I want to talk to this week, and thematically, what do we want to do? Where do I need help, etc. And then okay, so I can cross the ARCx score off. There was some final things there that I was ingesting in. That's actually done. So Monday is also a custom score day. So I'm going to be probably harassing Kale at increasing frequency, which will be great. And then I handed over another governance score to the data team. So actually that first one that's moved into development is now also handed over for me as well, which is great. And then, I've just set myself a target that I want to be talking to new people each week. So, it's great that I'm meeting existing people and talking with them, but we also want to meet new people. So that's what that is there for. And something that came up actually last night and relates to Kerman's shout out at the beginning of the slide is some of our community members' feedback. So I think something I'm learning, which is great because the community really helps you see around corners that maybe you have biases for and things like that, is that I didn't really have a big bias towards, enterprise sort of type business development. And what I'm going to start doing is figuring out a way this week to get a lot more closer to the end user, to make sure that I'm understanding the actual end user and thinking of development from their perspective as well. Shout outs, Hugh, you're super organized. I've been channeling your organizational energy on the Notion recently, and I really appreciate all the stuff you're doing, taking the lead with content, and it's super helpful. You're killing it. So thanks so much for everything you're doing. Challenges, so just increasing the number of partners I'm meeting with, and getting more formal project outreach going. So when I find a score that lands, okay, all right, what am I doing to help connect with more people who benefit from that? So that's everything from me this week. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Cool. So pretty quick update from me. So last week there were just there's a bit of work to basically update the brand and logos across all channels. I think we've pretty much gotten most of them. There are just like a couple of very very niche ones that we're still waiting on, but for the most part, you'll see the like new ARCx brand and logo appear across pretty much everywhere. The second thing for me was just putting out comms. So there was 2 big blog posts. Firstly on the new UI and rebrand, and then secondly on the Ribbon Finance airdrop. A bit of a shout out there. The Ribbon Finance airdrop comms was amazing. So like really good job there. I learned a lot personally, and keep up the good work there. And then finally, we had that co-marketing comms that went out alongside the Visor partnership announcement. So that was mainly last week, and then I guess this week it's going to be a bit more of getting into the nuts and bolts and preparing for our custom score announcements. So I think that one of the main things off the bat would be actually to write the comms announcements for custom scores. We mentioned this last week, but we want to really uplift the stream quality. So I'm going to be looking into what is the version 2 of what our streamed community calls could look like. So keep across that, and I guess I think the third thing here is a bit more stuff in the back end, but it's writing up our updated FAQs for the wiki as well as the Discord to just improve documentation across the board. And then the final point here, just a really small one, we've just got to migrate our YouTube account to a brand account, and alongside that comes a couple of other benefits. Quick shout out, Liam, reciprocating the shout out, mate. You've been helping me get on board and get up to speed as quickly as possible, so I really appreciate that. And then echoing Kale's point, Sydney crew, so good to meet everyone in real life on Friday. It was a great way to end lockdown in Sydney, so massive shout out to everyone for making me feel welcome there. Obviously the biggest challenge for me, for those of you who don't know, I'm still transitioning off my full-time job. So this is actually my last week doing 2 full-time jobs simultaneously. So I've got limited capacity, but I'm expecting to ramp up significantly more next week. So that's really it from me. So shorter update this week, but it's looking like next week is going to be big. Cool.
We've all been there, Hugh. You got it.
Yes, don't worry, we've all done the ramp on both sides.
So yeah, Liam, I'm sure. Don't know if you're grabbing this one or if John is here. Oh no, John is. Cool.
I'm here. Cheers. Thanks very much, Hugh. Good stuff. Looking forward to getting you on board full time. Okay, just a few short things from me. Last week we got the Visor partnership sorted, which is really awesome. Really happy to finally get that put to bed. And those guys they're just a really smart bunch, so really happy to be working with them. Worked with Angel last week on the ribbon data. He did an awesome job, so shout out to Angel. Those dashes are really cool. This week, well, I'm prepping for something pretty big in real life. Not this week, but next week. But just getting everything sorted. Got a baby on the way, so I'm just getting myself ready for that. And yeah, just further product testing with Demir. Just when he's got stuff ready, he's just gonna post in the channels, and we're just gonna work our way through it. Just like last week. And then a couple of shout outs to Jumaz and Spooky Boogie, who's got a really cool name. I know Kerwin mentioned them earlier, but yeah, it was just really nice to have some thoughtful and detailed feedback in the Discord. It's really important. We are a DAO, so every voice is super important. So I'd encourage anybody in the community to feel free to post and give us some honest feedback at any time. And that's pretty much it from me. So I'll rotate back to you, Kerman.
Sweet, cool. I think Treasury minor update. It's generally number go up, number is healthy. So nothing crazy detailed on that front. And yeah, to wrap up, like I think I was just discussing this with the team, but we've done a lot of great work over the past few months, and we're continuing to do a bunch of really cool stuff. And there's a ton of magic around what we're doing internally, but a lot of what my focus is going to be is like, how do we send that magic outwards into more towards the community so that you guys feel like you're part of the journey. Like internally at ARCx, we have the saying that like it isn't a job, but it's like a way of life. So we're keen to show you guys like this way of life is the way that we see it. And yeah, because the reality is like bringing reputation on chain, it's very like it's more or less identity, right? And identity has been the hardest unsolved problem in crypto for the past like decade effectively. So it's always a good call out to just say like we're trying to solve the hardest problem no one solved before, and we're all in it together learning. So thought I'd just leave off on that note. So thank you all for tuning in today, and catch you around next time. Bye.